Hello, everybody. I'm Stephanie Dahl with Dahl Fisher, your estate planning, probate, business, and real estate attorneys here in Denver. And today I'm so excited to have with us Matt Moriarty, and he owns the Moriarity Agency, and they specialize in all types of insurance. So thanks for being here, Matt.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about, just before we get going, and talk more about insurance and all fun things insurance. People love insurance, estate planning. It's a, great way to get you going in the morning. But tell us a little bit about what your agency does and what you guys specialize in.
Fantastic. And you're right. If you want to, be alone at a party, mention that you are in the insurance business or any business like that, right? I'm not going to throw you in that, but definitely, yeah. I do own a business. We are committed to protecting and educating our clients with regards to protecting both current and future assets. We do this through various products and services that we offer, right? So we specialize not only in personal insurance, commercial insurance, life insurance, financial services, all of the things above. But our main goal is not to, sell anybody anything, right? In fact, our mission is to educate our clients and help them, become, make sure that they're protecting both current and future assets. Because let's face it, I mean, again, I am not in an industry where, that most people want to spend too much time on, right? It's a price-driven industry. And our whole philosophy is to make sure that we're doing our best to change that perception, right? And not look at it from that and actually explain to people, how to make sure that they're protecting themselves from risk and, potential financial ruin.
Absolutely. And I think, as you mentioned that so often, there's all these commercials, right? About we can save you the most, save you the most, save you the most. But sometimes saving you the most ends up costing you the most in the end.
Absolutely.
Car accident, anything else that happens. If your insurance is there to cover the losses, except that it's limited based on what your policy says.
Exactly.
We're at the Home and Garden Show this week, and I had a woman stop by and was just asking me some questions. And one of the things that came up was an umbrella policy. And we advise our clients a lot of times to get umbrella policies because it's a really, I think, a good and efficient way to protect your assets in the event something happens. And she started asking me all these questions on the policy. And, I know enough about insurance to be dangerous. And so I said, have you ever sat down and looked at your policies? Do you know what's in there and what it actually covers and not? Because if not, one of the things you and your staff are amazing at is really going through and educating your clients on what is covered and what is not. And so I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how you guys differentiate then we'll save you $500 and all these other things. Like what do you guys really do? And with, that umbrella policy and all those good things, like how do you help your clients?
Oh, perfect. And a great segue there. So yeah, and one of the things that we do is being in the business that we're in, I mean, we obviously have to ask questions first and foremost. And most of the time, I mean, it's a common response, right? So don't feel bad if this is someone out there who's watching this who does this, right? Most of the time when we ask people, what kind of coverage do you have on your auto insurance? Oh, I have full coverage. Okay, full coverage. I understand that, but what does that mean? Well, I have like $500 deductibles, and I'm like, well, that's fantastic. That protects your vehicle. Let me ask you this: if you were involved in an at-fault accident, do you know how much of your assets are protected? Right? What percentage? Right? And you almost always get just a blank stare. Right. And the reason for that is people aren't paying attention to their bodily injury. Right. And that is the most important part of your auto insurance policy, right? Whether you have a $500 deductible or a $1,000 deductible, right? There's a difference of $500. But what if I told you that a difference between having state minimums and having, $250, $500 could be the difference between your assets being exposed for $200,000, right? Which one is more important to you? And usually, right? They're like, wow, I didn't even think about it that way, right? Or property damage, right? So if you have $15,000 of property damage, if you hit, that's not for your car, that's for a car that you hit. Well, if you hit a car that's worth $70,000, right? Well, most people don't realize that in the state of Colorado, you are responsible. The insurance company will pay the first $15,000, but then you are responsible for the remaining balance, right? That, again, is the difference between having a bad day and a bad life, right? And so we explain that to our clients to make sure that they're properly covered. You mentioned an umbrella policy. We always recommend getting $250,000 per person, $500,000 per incident, and then at least $1 million personal umbrella on top of that. And the reason for that is that in the state of Colorado, you are personally responsible, as I said earlier, for anything above your insurance, right? So if someone sues you, like I'll give you an example. We had a client who was driving downtown. It was one of those days where it was snowing out, and safe driver, right? Safe driver. She ended up hitting some black ice and ended up skidding and running into a pedestrian, right? When all is said and done, between attorney fees, between loss of wages, rehabilitation, medical costs, you name it, it was well over $600,000. Now think about that for a minute, $600,000. Even if you have 100,000 per person, 300,000 per incident, right? Or 250,000 per person, 500,000 per incident, that's a lot of money that you're going to be paying, right? So let's say you have great coverage, 250, 500, right? That means in that instant, you are going to be responsible for $350,000, right? Huge amount. The problem with that is that, that immediately exposes, right? If you don't have that money, that $350,000 just sitting around, that exposes, they can put a lien on your home. Mm-hmm. That exposes your checking, savings, and stocks, bonds, all that good stuff. It also, they can take 25% of your family income, right? So let's say you make $100,000 between two people, right? Well, congratulations, you now make $75,000, right? So these are like really important things that a lot of people don't think about. And one of the things that we do is we want to make sure that we are advising our clients to make sure that insurance is the one who pays and not you, right? And again, I go back to that, I say it all the time, but it's the difference between having a bad day and having a bad life.
Absolutely. And a lot of times people are like, well, how does insurance play in with estate planning? And I always tell people, the reality is we do estate planning so that you can protect your assets and you can protect your legacy and have your legacy move on. Mm. And if we don't have the things in place to protect those assets, i.e. insurance, umbrella policies, all these different things, then all of a sudden we don't have anything to protect. And that's what we never want to have for our clients. So it's why it always comes up in conversations for us with our clients is, what does your insurance situation look like? And have you had an agent who has sat down, looked at your policy and said, well, we have these assets and here's what this covers and here's what it doesn't cover and what is the best approach for you? And so I know that your agency does that. We love working with you guys. And I know everybody we've referred over loves you all. And so how do people get a hold of you if they would just like their policies reviewed, or maybe it's time for them to switch because they've never actually really talked to somebody? So how would they get a hold of you, Matt?
Sounds perfect. And real quick too, just like a house of cards, right? Like you mentioned, right? There are certain things that you build your foundation on, right? Whether it wants to be a legacy or it wants to be your retirement or anything along those lines. If one of those, if they were to chop off that, right, and it exposes your assets, all of a sudden, you mentioned your legacy. All of a sudden, your legacy is gone, right? And so we want to make sure that they're protected. You want to get a hold of me, you want to get a hold of my team, you can call us at 303-798-3081. My email is Matt, M-A-T-T, at MORIARITY agency.net. Either one of those things, you get direct a hold of me. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, LinkedIn. Any one of those places would be perfect for me. But we're just looking to give advice, right? That's what we're in the business to do. So we're not trying to sell you anything. I'm just trying to educate you and make sure that that you are protecting yourself.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here today, Matt. I really appreciate it. And we will also put all of Matt's contact information in the newsletter. So please feel free to reach out to him there. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Of course.